record this here. Okay. So as you see the screen before you, we have written a bit of information about Clint Brooks. Clint Brooks was born on 16th October 1906 and he died in 1994. He was a professor of English at Louisiana State University in USA. Clint Brooks belonged to a particular critical movement which is known as New Criticism. New Criticism, it started in 1920s and 30s and it was very famous in 1940s and 50s. Why we call it New Criticism is because it was new at that time. This movement was very influential and had a lot of impact on critical scenario of the times. The name New Criticism was given to this movement from John Ronson's famous book, The New Criticism. In this book, the title first mentioned this particular name, which was given to this movement. New critics focused mainly on the text, and they tried to exclude the reader's response, the author's intention, historical and critical contexts, and moralistic biases from their analysis. What does it mean? It means that New Criticism exclusively concentrated on the text and did not consider that something outside the text influences our understanding of the text. Means, if you have a novel, a poem, or a drama, and you want to understand it, this movement focused on the text itself. It said that nothing else is important, nothing else is required to understand the text. If you want to understand Othello, you will have to go to the text of Othello, read it, understand it through the language employed by the writer, the kind of characters he used, the kind of intentions. Sorry, somebody else is, yes. Somebody's mic is on. Please mute your mic. अपने mic को mute कर लीजिए. Yes. Mic आप सभी ने mute करने हैं. Okay. Yes. So, New Criticism emphasized the primacy of text. According to this critical movement, text is self-sufficient, text is important, and text is able to reveal the kind of insights we wish to take from that piece of literature. Some of the famous new critics were John Ronson, Alan Tate, Clint Brooks, and Robert Penn Warren. Remember, New Criticism is also known by another name called Formalist Criticism. As the title Formalist suggests, form is important and not the content. You know, there are two parts of any piece of literature. One is the form, the style, the overall structure, and another is the content. New critics emphasize that content is not important. What is important is the form the writer gives to the book. So, this piece of criticism is also known as formalist criticism because it emphasizes the form of the piece of work and not the content. Brooks was part of two significant literary movements of his times, the Southern Agrarians and Fugitives. These were contemporary critical movements during the time of Clint Brooks, and he was actively busy in participating in these movements. The Fugitives was a group of Southern poets which belonged to South America, and they consisted of some influential writers such as John Ronson, Alan Tate, Donald Davidson, and Robert Penn Warren. It emphasized intensive readings, the close readings of the text. Means to understand the text, you have to go to the writing itself, to the text itself, pay attention to the paradoxes used by a writer, the kind of contradictions used by the writer, the kind of language used by the writer, the kind of images and metaphors given by the writer in the text, and out of these stylistic devices, you can understand the meaning which the writer wants to give to the text. And the considerations included a poem's form, structure, meter, rhyme scheme, and imagery. These are the factors which gave a meaning to a poem and not what the writer wishes to convey, what is the historical and social background of the poem in which it was written, what is the intention of the poet, what prompted the poet to create a particular poem. These aspects are not important according to these writers, but rather what are important to understand the poem are form, the structure, whether it has been divided into certain portraits or it has a couplet form, right? What is the relation of one line to another line, the kind of overall structure of the poem, the meter, what kind of meter the writer uses, whether it is anapest or iambic, the rhyme scheme, the music, and the images, which are part of the structure of the poem. These factors determine the real meaning of a poem and not a simple paraphrasing of the poem. Right? Okay. Some of the famous works written by Clint Brooks are The Velvet Urn, Studies in the Structure of Poetry, and Modern Poetry and the Tradition. He also worked on William Faulkner and he edited the journal The Southern Review. Remember, Clint Brooks was the central figure of New Criticism. He was the chief proponent of New Criticism. He was the spirit behind this particular movement. And it emphasized structural and textual analysis. New Criticism emphasized structural and textual analysis. Again, I am emphasizing that if you want to understand the poem, you will have to go to the structure of the poem. You will have to analyze the text of the poem by itself and in itself, not in reference to something outside. So, in a way, New Criticism emphasized close reading, means line by line, word by word, explanation of the poem. To understand the poem, you will have to see what kind of word the writer has used, whether it is a noun or a verb or an adjective. What is the relation of a word with surrounding words, means the ambience of the word. And I did not thought that historical or biographical analysis is important to understand a poem. You do not have to go to the historical background in which the poem was written. Whether it was written during the time of Romantic movement or Victorian age doesn't matter. At the same time, it doesn't matter whether the poem, when the poem was written and by whom it was written. Means the background, the biographical background of the poet has no relation with the poem. Of course, we are more and more talking about poem and not other genres of literature like fiction or like drama. Remember, New Criticism concentrated more exclusively on poetry, although the analysis and the insights are applicable to other branches of literature like novel or like drama also. So again, the point is that historical or biographical analysis of a poem or a text are not important. What is important is the text in itself. The text was considered a complete world in itself. The text was thought to be a self-sufficient entity, and to understand its meaning, you will have to go to that entity, and this entity has a roundness, has a completeness about itself. You do not need to refer to outside reality or the creator. You know, one of the famous critics during this time said that the author is dead. The kind of analysis we primarily do in our literature classes is that we try to understand a poem in reference to the poet. When did William Wordsworth write this poem? What prompted him to write this poem? What was he doing when he wrote this poem? Or what were his emotions when he wrote these poems? But new critics, under new criticism or formalist criticism, emphasize that writer's moods and his problems or his personal life or the incidents of his life have no bearing over our poem, because poem is in itself a complete unit. It has nothing to do with who the writer was or what he was thinking or what he was doing or what were his personal emotions and uh, ideas. So in a way, new criticism separates the creator and the created. The creator means the poet. The outside reality means the historical social background, what was happening in the society at that time, what were the economic and social problems. They have no bearing at all over the product. The created means the poem. The poem is in itself a complete world. Okay? So the second point is the primary concern of criticism is with the problem of unity. These new critics identified that unity is the basic thing to understand the poem. How one part of a poem is related to other parts, how one paragraph is related to other paragraph, how one sentence is related to other sentences, how one word is related to another word, how they are separate from each other, and how they communicate with each other. This is the kind of unity a text has. And whether a poem is a good poem or a poem is a bad poem or any other piece of literature, whether it is a good piece of literature or bad piece of literature, it depends upon the kind of unity which is found within that text. So unity is the main thing. The organic unity means how the different parts of a text are connected with each other. Third point is that in a successful work, form and content cannot be separated. Of course, new criticism emphasized on form, the structure, and not on the content. But at the same time, it should be understood that form and content are not separate things. Where there is a connection between the two, the meaning, what we call as the content, the meaning, is dependent upon the form on the one hand, and on the other, the meaning should flow from the structural unity of the work. It's not something outside the structure or the form of the poem. It's part of the kind of uh, unity, the kind of systematic unity which the writer gives to the text that determines the meaning of the poem. So the next point makes it very clear that form is the meaning, the structure is the meaning, and not the textual meaning or the intentional meaning which the writer proposes to give within the text. Next point is that literature is ultimately metaphorical and symbolic. You all understand. Literature doesn't refer to only the concrete reality. It tries to make visible a symbolic reality. All literature in one sense is symbolic. We substitute one thing for another. All literature is metaphorical. What is metaphor? Metaphor means you refer to one thing in terms of another. So all literature is metaphorical and symbolic. Of course, we can understand. Language itself is metaphoric because it refers to the concrete reality through certain sounds or certain images. So all literature is of course metaphorical and symbolic. It refers to one thing in terms of another. The general and universal are not seized upon by abstraction but brought at all to the concrete in the particular. New criticism emphasized in the primacy of images, try, try to understand a text through the kind of images used by a writer. And what are images? Images are concretization of something abstract. When you want to understand love, you compare it with something concrete. When you want to understand beauty, you compare it with something concrete like a rose or like a flower. So we try to understand abstract notions through the concrete manifestation of reality. This is what always happens. So reality is to be understood through particular and the concrete. And we human beings Also try to understand abstractions, ideas like love, beauty, anger, and jealousy, and such abstract notions through their concretization, through depiction of something which we can visualize through our eyes or through our understanding. Next point is that literature is not a surrogate for reason. Surrogate is a substitution. There has been a prevalent notion in literature that literature is there for moral improvement. That we go to any story or any poem or any drama to understand this world, and thus this understanding is supposed to make us better human beings. But new criticism did not, accept such notions. It tried to convey an idea that the purpose of literature is not to teach. The purpose of literature is not a moral one. Although it tries to raise some moral problems, but it doesn't mean that it tries to teach us something concretely and something intentionally. You know. So literature is not a surrogate for realism. Means literature cannot substitute realism. We go to realism when we want to hear something moral or try to understand how we can be better human beings. But literature is a very complex thing. Literature is not for didactic leanings or didactic understanding of the world. Literature gives us an image. Literature gives us just a glimpse of outside reality. And if you want to draw something moral, something didactic out of that presentation of reality, it is your conclusion. But in itself, literature remains neutral. So, what kind of literature we can call great, and what kind of literature we can call bad literature? It depends upon the kind of complexity of vision it gives to us. You cannot call a piece of literature good literature because it teaches you something. Because teaching, and particularly explicit teaching, is never a purpose of literature. So, when we say that literature is not a surrogate for realism, it means that literature does not consciously teach us something. It doesn't make us better human beings. That, as Alan Tate says, specific moral problems are the subject matter of literature, but that the purpose of literature is not to point a moral. This is what we were discussing now, that although literature raises specific moral problems, you know, conflict between good and bad, for instance, or what happens when something bad is done by a person to other people. These moral problems are, of course, subject matter of literature, but the conclusion, but the ending, or in itself the structure of the literature is not moralistic. It would be a mistake to limit literature to simply, an explanation of morals of a nation or a society. Because literature is something more complex. It's beyond such moral delineation of purpose. So, when Alan Tate says that, of course, literature raises moral problems as part of its subject matter, we agree with him. And of course, we can agree with him when he says that purpose of literature is not to give you a moral. It's not like that story we read in our childhood that there was a crow and it certain, it raised the level of the water and then he drank it and flew away saying that where there is a will, there is a way. This is not literature. Literature makes you rich from within by presenting you a slice of the society or an individual psyche, and it just gives you a problem but doesn't point to the solutions to that problem. Because to point to solutions would be to limit the flights of literature, to limit its unending meanings and multiplicity. So Now quickly we come to another important problem which is raised in the essay, that is against historical and biographical readings. What are historical readings? Historical or historicism and new historicism, which were independent critical movements in English literature. What is historical criticism or new historical criticism? For instance, historical criticism try to situate the meaning of text within the history of social, political, and economic factors. It means that if you want to understand a poem or a fiction or, or a drama, you will have to go to the history of classes, history of the particular society in which it is represented, history of movements like Marxism or feminism, to understand the meaning of the text. New criticism goes against such historical meanings ascribed to the text. According to it, the history of a work does not have any significant bearing on the meaning of the text. Similarly, another thing is biographical readings. What is biographical reading? Biographical reading is that if you want to understand a poem, you will have to go to the poet and his biography. For instance, when we read certain poems of William Wordsworth, we first study about William Wordsworth, when he was born, when he died, when he wrote this poem. This poem was written when he was crossing a bridge or when he saw a beautiful flower, and suddenly he was affected by the beautiful scene and he started writing this poem. According to New criticism, these biographical readings are incorrect because they provide an outside reference, which is not important to understand this particular piece of literature. So Brooks formulated these guidelines in reaction to ornamentalist theories of poetry. Ornamentalist means something which gives an excessive ornamentation to poem, which is really not part of the poem, to the common practice of critics going outside the poem to historical or biographical content. So, Clint Brooks did not advocate either historical or biographical context. According to him, nothing is required to understand a poem except the text of the poem. You go to the text, you try to understand the choice of words by a writer, you try to understand the relation of different words and different sentences to each other. You try to understand the kind of images which are used by a writer in the poem. You try to understand the rhyme scheme, the metaphors, the similes, the contradictions, contrasts, comparisons within the poem. And these different devices can help you to understand a poem better as compared to something which is outside that text. So, in a way, in a conflict between the text and the context, new criticism emphasized the text and denied the importance of context. Right? So these are certain initial remarks about what are the major concerns raised by new criticism and how we can situate Clint Brooks as part of new critical movement, which was a very important critical movement during the first part of 20th century. It was very significant and it influenced a lot of people in their own way. Tomorrow we will again discuss certain other salient features of criticism, and then we will come to the text in itself. Because criticism is all about text, so we can come to the text after 2 or 3, right? This is all. Now, if you have certain questions, you can share with me. Right, so we have how many people? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7 people. Only this person, Galaxy J7. Who is this Galaxy J7? My voice is audible? आवाज मेरी साफ आई आज या नहीं आई? Anybody?
Yes, sir. It is clear. Your voice is clear today.
और मैंने जो आपको नोट्स वगैरह दिखाए हैं वो स्क्रीन पर विजिबल हो रहे थे?
Yes, sir.
स्क्रीन पर विजिबल, राइट। तो डिफिकल्टी आई हो तो बताइए आप, या चल जाएगी हमारी क्लास, ऐसे चल जाएगी, काम चल जाएगा?
Sir, I did not understand very clearly this topic.
ओके, टॉपिक क्या है? न्यू क्रिटिसिज्म जो है वो एक पर्टिकुलर क्रिटिकल मोमेंट था जब हमारी 20वीं शताब्दी शुरू हुई ना, तो उसके पहले पार्ट के अंदर एक क्रिटिकल मोमेंट आया था। बेसिक आपने क्या चीज ध्यान देनी है, इसका मतलब है फॉर्मलिज्म, राइट? फॉर्मलिज्म भी कहते हैं इसको, न्यू क्रिटिसिज्म को, न्यू क्रिटिकल मूवमेंट को फॉर्मलिज्म कहते हैं। बेसिक पर्पस क्रिटिकल मूवमेंट का ये था कि फॉर्म ज्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट है कंटेंट की वजह। दो चीजें होती है ना किसी टेक्स्ट की, मान लीजिए
Yes, that point I understood.
अब ऐसा करना, मैं ये जो कुछ नोट्स है ये आपके गूगल क्लासरूम पर शेयर करता हूँ, ठीक है? इनको पढ़ना आप लोग, और पढ़ने के बाद कल जब हमारी क्लास लगेगी तो हम 5 मिनट आपके जो प्रॉब्लम्स है उनको डिस्कस करेंगे, ठीक है
Sir?
राइट?
Yes, sir.
हाँ, तो ज्योति विजिबल है। चंचल कहाँ है मेरी? चंचल, चंचल दिख नहीं रही है।
Yes, sir.
हाँ चंचल, तुम्हारी वीडियो कहाँ है? Where are you? Where are you? 1 second. Cancel this. Cancel is visible, and then
Yes,
1E. 1E.
Sir?
ये कौन है जिसमें नाम नहीं विजिबल हो रहा है इसका? चलो आप ऐसा क्या करो, आपकी ना स्क्रीन के नीचे एक चैट का ऑप्शन है, दिख रहा है? सभी लोग देखिए, स्क्रीन के नीचे एक चैट का ऑप्शन है, इस पर क्लिक कीजिए, चैट के ऊपर। स्क्रीन के बिल्कुल नीचे चैट का ऑप्शन मिलेगा आपको।
हाँ, yes, sir.
आप इस पर
Chat.
क्लिक करके चैट पर क्लिक करेंगे ना तो आप मैसेज भेज सकते हैं। तो आप अपना अपना नाम लिखकर भेज दीजिए, हम इसको यूज करते हैं चैट को अटेंडेंस के लिए। और साथ साथ मान लीजिए बीच में आवाज खत्म हो जाती है, आवाज नहीं आ रही है, तो आप वो मैसेज भेज सकते हैं कि सर ये प्रॉब्लम आ रही है, तो मुझे करने हो जाता है। जैसे मैं आपके पास लिखता हूँ, देखिए ये आप सभी को भेज दीजिए, बेशक 2 के बाद एवरीवन को भेज दीजिए। हाँ ठीक है, ज्योति का आ गया है। आप सभी लोग चैट के ऊपर एक बार गुड आफ्टरनून लिखिए सर। कनक नचिता का मैसेज आ गया है, ठीक है। ज्योति का आ गया है।
Sir?
आप इस चैट को यूज कर सकते हैं। बीच में योगिता का मैसेज आ गया है, योगिता आ गया है मैसेज, गुड। ओप्पो दीपिका, हाँ दीपिका का आ गया है, ठीक है, राइट। और कौन कौन है हमारे पास? पूनम, चंचल, और अपना नाम भेजिए, शाबाश। ठीक है, हम ऐसा करते हैं
Sir?
हाँ जी बताइए, बोलिए।
Sir, there was one point that literature is not surrogate of religion, something like that. And you told us the meaning of that sentence. It was literature doesn't consciously teaches us something.
राइट।
What does it mean?
सरोगेट मीन सब्स्टिट्यूशन। सब्स्टिट्यूशन कहते हैं जो किसी एक चीज की जगह दूसरी चीज को रखा जाता है, ठीक है। कहते हैं लिटरेचर इज नॉट अ सरोगेट ऑफ रिलीजन, इट मीन्स that literature cannot replace religion. रिलीजन क्या करता है? रिलीजन हमें ये बताता है क्या अच्छा है और क्या बुरा है, ठीक है? लिटरेचर हमें ये नहीं बताता क्या अच्छा और क्या बुरा है, वो जजमेंट्स पास नहीं करता है। लिटरेचर हमें सिर्फ एक दुनिया की तस्वीर देता है, वो तस्वीर निष्पक्ष होती है, उसके मल्टीपल एंगल्स होते हैं, ओके? जितनी कॉम्प्लेक्स वो तस्वीर प्रेजेंट करेगा उतना अच्छा वो पीस ऑफ लिटरेचर और ड्रामा या पोएम, राइट? लेकिन लिटरेचर का पर्पस
Yes, sir.
ये नहीं है ये बताना कि क्या अच्छा है और क्या बुरा है,
क्या बुरा
बुरा है क्या हमें
That was
करना
literature is not surrogate of religion.
ये इसका मीनिंग है। रिलीजन ये बताता है कि भाई क्या करना चाहिए क्या नहीं करना चाहिए, क्या अच्छा है क्या
नहीं करना चाहिए।
बुरा है, ठीक है? साहित्य
And
हमें नहीं बताता, साहित्य हमें सिर्फ एक तस्वीर देता है कि ऐसी दुनिया हो। ये कभी ये नहीं कहेगा कि और अच्छा पीस ऑफ लिटरेचर कभी ये नहीं बताएगा कि क्या करना चाहिए आपको और क्या नहीं करना। अगर ये बताता है तो लिटरेचर, ठीक है, वो धार्मिक
sir.
ग्रंथ बन जाता है, ये इसका, ओके?
Sir, another doubt is you told that literature's purpose is not to give moral education. Then what is the literature's purpose?
Literature's purpose, as I understand, is to make us aware about the complexity of the world. साहित्य का उद्देश्य है
Make us-
हमें दुनिया की कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी के बारे में अवेयर करना, ऐसा भी होता है, ये भी होता है, ठीक है? ये पर्पस है लिटरेचर का। कॉन्शियस मोरल जो है वो लिटरेचर का पर्पस है, ओके?
Okay, sir. Clear.
So the meeting ends today. आप सभी लोग अपना गूगल क्लासरूम यूज कर रहे हैं? गूगल क्लासरूम यूज कर रहे हैं?
Yes,
तो
sir.
उसको आप, हाँ, उसमें आप जाते रहिएगा, जो भी नोट्स वगैरह मैं उसे मैं आपको बता दूँ, राइट? ओके, थैंक यू।
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.